You know, a lot of Indian students say the same thing after they go abroad. I don't know why, but something just feels off in the beginning. Studies have found that 65% of international students experience cultural shock in the first few months overseas. And it is not something that you can point out immediately because on paper, everything looks fine. You got into a good university, you can speak the language, you have prepared for years for this moment. But then you land here and slowly things start feeling unfamiliar in the ways you didn't expect. Like in a classroom, you are sitting there, you understand the subject, you have studied it well, but the way discussion happens, something feels different. People are more open. They question things. They disagree without hesitation. And you suddenly realize you have rarely been in spaces where your opinion was expected and not just the answer. Or even outside the class. Simple interactions feels a little bit harder than they should. They are speaking the same language, but the tone, the humor, the way people express themselves, it takes time to catch up with that. So sometimes you hold back, not because you don't have anything to share, but you are still figuring out how to say it in a way it fits. A research also proves that the cultural shock leads to lack of confidence in class participation. Not only this, over time, the lack of confidence can hinder your understanding and can negatively impact your academic performance. And then there is a everyday life's part, which nobody really prepares you for. Managing everything on your own sounds exciting, but when you think about it, living it is very different. You are making decisions all the time, small ones, constant ones, and it builds up. By the end of the day, you feel mentally exhausted, even if nothing big happened. One student on Reddit has shared his experience that the first month felt overwhelming and he wishes that somebody would have told him before. So socially also it takes adjustment. People are kind, they are polite, they are welcoming, but relationship doesn't form instantly. And that space where you are surrounded with people but still feel a little disconnected can feel quite isolated in the beginning. And somewhere in all of this, there is also a more personal shift happening. Back home, you know who you are. Your achievements, your environment, your people, they define a big part of your identity. But in a new country, none of those contexts exist for others. You are starting from scratch in a way, and that can feel unsettling. So when student says they feel lost, it is because of a lot of small unfamiliar experiences that are happening at the same time, academically, socially, personally. And the fact is, it doesn't really start when you move abroad. It builds over time. If you grow up in an environment where most of the things are familiar, where thinking pattern is similar, where the focus is primarily on performance, then stepping into a completely different system naturally takes some time to adjust to, because understanding the world is about experiencing two different ways of thinking, different ways of living, and different ways of expressing yourself. And that kind of awareness doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually through conversations, through curiosity, through being open to perspectives that are different from your own. Which is why, for many students, the first few months abroad feel intense. Not because they are not capable, but because they are adapting to a completely new way of experiencing the world. And once that adjustment starts happening, things start to get easier. But those initial few months, they really show you how much of the world you had yet to understand. So the point is, what can actually be done differently? Not later, but while you are still here, growing up, while preparing to study abroad. Parents needs to take care of this. You don't have to do anything extreme. Just start with small, consistent exposure. Encourage your kid to stay aware of what's happening in the world, not just as current affairs, but like a conversation. Keep yourself aware and have a healthy debate with them. That will develop their critical thinking skills. That will help them to put their point across, to agree, to disagree, or to form an opinion. Expose them to different cultures. They will naturally create a sense of respect in them for people who are different from them and talk about what they actually notice. This will help them understand that non-verbal communication varies significantly across cultures. Gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, and body language that are common in one culture may have different meaning in another. Expose them to people who think differently so that they get comfortable with unfamiliar perspectives. This will help them learn to create space where their opinions are heard. Look, understanding the world is not something that happens suddenly when you land in a new country. It develops gradually. But this preparedness and awareness, when built early, make their transition very different and easier. They will still take time to adjust, but they won't feel lost. And that's what we want, right? Thank you.